Hello. Every year about this time, I start getting emails from people asking me questions about guitars. What's a good guitar to get for somebody's first guitar? I want to give somebody a guitar as a gift. Do you have any suggestions? And I love answering those emails, but I thought I'd do a video that would explain some of the high points of buying a guitar as a gift. It's kind of a tricky proposition, but it's not impossible if you just remember a few things. I think the first thing to remember is you should probably always have the person with you who's going to be playing the guitar and let them try a whole bunch of guitars and find one that really fits, really suits them. Here's where your local music store comes into play. Now, yes, there are guitars offered on television, and actually on QVC, we had a couple of pretty good ones. That was then, this is now. Now, I would suggest going to your local guitar store, your local music shop. They will not only make sure you get the right guitar, make sure it's set up properly for you, but also maintain it down the line. So, just a pretty good idea. All right, so have the person with you, and there's still ways to make that a surprise. Let them try out the guitar and say, well, I'm thinking about giving you some other things for the holidays, so I'm not sure. Let me think about it, and then you give them the guitar. It's much better to take a little bit of the element of surprise away than to give somebody a guitar that's going to wind up collecting dust in the back of a closet somewhere. And sadly, a lot of new guitars do. But right off the bat, if you can, have them try it out. And number one thing you want to look for in a guitar is the action. Action refers to the distance between the strings and the fingerboard. The closer the strings are to the fingerboard, the easier the guitar is to play. Now, they can't be too close or the guitar would make no sound whatsoever. So there's got to be a little space, but just enough that the note rings out clearly no matter where you play the note. Again, your local music store can help with this. And they can even make sure the guitar is set up. That's one thing when you buy a guitar from a store, they will set it up for you. They'll make sure the action is adjusted properly. They'll probably put a new set of strings on it. Yeah, you'll have to pay for them, but it's always good to give a guitar with new strings on it. But number one, make sure the action is fairly low. I've seen a lot of guitars come through that the action's a quarter of an inch or more. The strings are a quarter of an inch or more above the fingerboard, and that makes playing the guitar almost impossible. That leads to frustration, and people quit the guitar. They say, it's too hard, it hurts my fingers. Well, yeah, it hurts your fingers because it is impossible to play. There's enough room to have a company picnic between the strings and the fingerboard. So, action, number one thing. Number two, take your thumb and your index finger and run it down the neck of the guitar. What you're feeling for is any of these metal frets. See if any of them are popped out and if any of them feel sharp to the touch. You know, if you start bleeding, that's a big clue. But usually it's not that bad, although I've seen guitars that are pretty close to that. But if you run your fingers down, the frets should all be set in very nicely, and you shouldn't really feel them, or maybe just even the faintest little impression that they're there. But if your fingers go down, it's like ouch, 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 ouch. Yeah, avoid that guitar. That guitar hasn't been stored properly. It's been in a very low humidity situation, and the frets are popping, or it was just made poorly to begin with, and the frets are popping. So just give it a check like that. Now, body size of the guitar. There are dozens of different body sizes of guitars. Probably a couple of dozen primary sizes that are referred to by numbers and what have you. Rather than get into that now, again, here's where bringing somebody to the store, letting them figure out what guitar they really like. When I bought this guitar, now this is a Martin, what they call a 0021 from their vintage series. I played this at the music store back in the 1990s, and I said, wow, this is great. It sounded great. It played easily. The body size was right for me. It felt really good holding the guitar against my body. And I said, this is the one for me. So again, if the person's picking it out, you'll know whether or not they want a bigger body size. Usually those are called dreadnoughts or jumbos. Even the biggest guitars are jumbos, and they have super jumbos and what have you. And then it comes down to different sizes. There are parlor size guitars. They have obviously smaller size bodies and what have you. Just want a body size that's comfortable. That's comfortable for the person who's playing it. Now, also, this guitar is called a 12 fret guitar. It's 12 frets to the body. That 12th fret where the perfect octave harmonic is on the guitar. Yeah, your teacher will explain a lot more about that, but the 12th fret is where the neck meets the body. So and you say, why? Well, I play a lot of things where that's important to me. It's important to know that when I get down there, okay, I don't have to look. Oh, there's the 12th fret. I can feel that my fingers are there. That's usually when I'm playing a blues thing or a slide thing, and I know that octave, that perfect octave, is right down there at the 12th fret. A lot of acoustic guitars are 14 fret guitars. That means there are 14 frets until you access the guitar. Now, obviously, that means you can play some of the higher notes a little easier because you don't have to reach over the body. And then there are also cutaway guitars where that section down by the neck is literally cut away by the manufacturer. And that's nice if you're going to be playing down here really high notes and what have you. It's a personal preference. I don't think, especially for somebody who just wants to have fun with the acoustic guitar, somebody who is a beginner, you don't really need a cutaway. But if they find a cutaway they really like, that's fine too. Not a problem. Okay, strings. This is a steel string guitar. They sound clean and crisp, and pretty much most of what people associate with the acoustic guitar would be a steel string guitar. Nylon strings usually associated with classical music or Willie Nelson. If you're Willie Nelson, get a nylon string guitar because he can make them sing, and it's pretty cool to listen to. But other than that, steel strings, again, yes, nylon strings are a little bit easier to play, especially in the beginning, than steel strings. But you can play a little bit more universal music on a steel string guitar. At least it'll sound like you've heard. So if you like if somebody wants to play the music of, say, any singer-songwriter from Ed Sheeran back through Bob Dylan, Neil Young, what have you, that's a steel string guitar they were playing. So you want to get probably a steel string guitar. Again, if the action is adjusted properly, it'll be pretty easy to play. And yes, the first few weeks of playing a guitar, if you've never played it, your fingers hurt a little bit. You eventually start to build up calluses on your fingers. And if you notice, you can't really see the calluses. They sort of, at first you can, but then they eventually blend in to your fingers. And you get these wonderful ninja fingers that you can play for hours and hours and hours. So anyway, keep that in mind. I would say a steel string guitar. If you notice on this guitar, this part of the guitar is called the headstock. This is a slotted headstock. You've also seen guitars, and I have some, that have a solid headstock. It's not slotted, and the tuners are off to the front of the headstock, and there's no slotting involved. Okay, what's the difference? That could take up a couple of hour video all by itself with differences in string angle and tone and what have you. By and large, I look at it this way. I really like this guitar. I didn't care what kind of a headstock it had. I love the way it played. I love the way it sounded. Love the way it felt when I held it, okay? I will say this, slotted headstock guitars are a pain in the butt to restring. Yeah, you've got to get and especially when you have fingers like these, getting in those little nooks and crannies, it's a drag to do that. It's much easier to restring a solid headstock guitar, at least for me, and I think for most people. So solid, slotted, it doesn't really matter if the guitar is right for who you're getting it for. That's just ancillary. But if you notice here on the headstock, I have that little device. That's a tuner, an electronic tuner. So when I turn that on, which I will do right now, there you go. If I play a note and it's in tune, there we go. I'll just move this over there, perfect. Okay, if it lights up green like it just did on the low E note, that means the low E note is in tune. And if you give somebody a guitar and you don't give them a tuner, you're evil. You're evil. And guess what? You're going to have to listen to that person play an out of tune guitar. Tuners are 15 to 20 bucks. Sometimes you can get them for 10 bucks or so. They make a great stocking stuffer if you're giving somebody a guitar, but get them a tuner. They will thank you and thank you and thank you. I grew up in the 50s and 60s when I got my first guitar. And we didn't have electronic tuners in those days. In fact, they didn't get electricity for a while. But anyway, yeah, but I'm bummed. An electronic tuner makes it so much easier, and it sounds so much better when your guitar is in tune. It really does. Go to any local mic and you'll understand what I'm talking about. I've never understood why people go to an open mic and don't tune their guitars, but a lot of people do. And if you just want to go and laugh at people, that's a good place to do it. Just listen to them and then go outside and laugh, because they'll get mad if you laugh when you're in there. I found that out the hard way. Anyhow, so buy them a tuner. Now, there's a debate between acoustic guitars and electric guitars. Again, that could take hours and hours and hours of discussion, and the electric guitar can do. By and large, if you're starting off with a guitar, you start with an acoustic guitar. You really do. I mean, because if you have an electric guitar, you've got to add the expense of an amplifier. And if you just want to take the guitar and go, sit under a tree and contemplate your navel while you strum a few chords, it's a pain in the neck to do that with an electric guitar. I would start with an acoustic. You can always move on to an electric guitar. Now, some acoustic guitars have pickups installed in them. That means you could actually plug them in. Those are called acoustic electric guitars. So if you think you might want to play out, or the person you're giving the guitar to might want to play out for people at a club or an open mic, get them a tuner. You might want to get a guitar with a pickup built in. That adds a little bit to the cost, which brings us to that question: how much should I pay for a good guitar? It's a wide open scale, but for a good beginner's instrument, I believe in today's marketplace, dealing with your local music store, $200 to $300, right in that range, $200 to $300 should do it. Name brands to look for Guild, Gretsch, Fender, Takamine. Guild, Gretsch, Fender, Takamine. Even some Epiphone guitars, that's a subsidiary of Gibson, are really, really good too. In that $200 to $300 range. That is something, again, your local music store can help you with. But go to a name brand. You'll find some off-brand names. Now, most of the $200 to $300 guitars are made overseas. But if they're made by Guild or Gretsch or Fender or Takamine or Gibson through Epiphone, they probably have a bit more control over the guitar than a guitar whose name you never heard of before. So keep that in mind. $200 to $300. And then can you spend more? Sure. You really can. I mean, the sky's the limit. But yeah, $200 to $300, you can find something really nice. Finally, lessons. I can't stress that enough. If you're giving somebody a guitar, give them lessons. Your local music store probably has some really fine teachers. The music department of local colleges more than likely have students who are music majors who play the guitar, who would make excellent teachers and won't charge an arm and a leg. That's a great place to look. I have some videos, and they're free. They're on YouTube. Just search Guitar Playing Made Easy. I took a video that I made back in the 90s and broke it into 6 different parts. So Guitar Playing Made Easy, part 1 through 6, and it takes you through the absolute beginning stages of the guitar and lets you make some really cool music right off the bat. It certainly doesn't end with that. In fact, if you want to do how-to videos, there's a company out of Woodstock, New York called Homespun Videos. So homespun.com or homespunvideos.com. They have videos for virtually every instrument on the face of the planet, including guitars, and some really, really fine teachers who are well-known guitarists that people will recognize. I have several of their videos. I have one by the late, great Richie Havens, and I love the way he uses different open tunings and what have you, and I learned a great deal from just that one video. But they have other videos too. If you're into the blues master Rory Block has a series of really, really, really good videos and really easy to follow along. But yeah, videos are good, but a live teacher, you cannot beat a live teacher. And that's, if you give somebody a guitar and you give them a tuner and you don't get them lessons, you're still evil, but you're probably a little less evil than somebody who would just do it without the tuner. Get lessons. It should be fun. It's a great gift. People that I know who have gotten their first guitar as a holiday gift or what have you, they just light up. And the guitar has added so much to my life. It really has. And I love to play. I use it as a tool in my songwriting life, and it's been invaluable. So go out, follow these guidelines, have fun picking out the guitar. Shopping for it should be a lot of fun, and giving it should be even more fun. All right, that's great. Happy holidays, and God bless.